How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another FPL video. And today we're going to be looking at the bench boost chip. We're going to be seeing what type of draft I've kind of done up if I had the bench boost still to go. This is obviously going to be a bit trickier. It's going to be a bit, a bit more difficult for some people that don't have their wild card, and this would be more of an ideal sense. But we're going to be talking about kind of like the players that you should be kind of looking at potentially for the bench boost and kind of the strategies around using that chip if you don't have their wild card. So without further ado, let's see what the draft looks like. So first off, let's look at the squad value. It's around 104 million. This could change with some price changes. I know I have one player that's scheduled to go up tonight in there in the midfield. But yeah, it's just kind of a general idea. I kind of put the squad value up there, mainly to kind of, see, where your team budget is and kind of compare it to this sort of team. Now, this is definitely an ideal scenario. This would be if I could, like, as an example, go back to game week 30 plus when we had the free wild card effectively and be able to play the bench boost chip at the same time. So kind of think about these players in terms of their matchups and how your team kind of fits into that. And basically the rule of thumb with the bench boost, in the remaining game weeks is when your players on your bench have a good matchup, the ones that you wouldn't be starting, or a halfway decent matchup, just play the bench boost. They're going to get you some points, and you're running out of time because you don't want to leave it to the last day, mainly because there could be risk of rotation. There could be teams not really fighting for anything, and they kind of just do a handshake and say, yeah, let's just draw it out here, and not really much going on. And there could be more competitive side of games, like as an example, Chelsea and Wolves could be playing against each other and fighting for a Champions League spot, so that could be super competitive. United, as an example, could potentially, if they win, a good portion of the remaining of their games, they could already be, well out of harm's reach and be looking towards Europa League, so they could be rotating. So I think this is the best possible opportunity to use it. That being said, we're going to look at the defense and the bench here. You'll notice that I have Jesus on the bench. It's mainly because I just decided to put him on the bench just for fun. And we also have Willy Bolly and Roman Saiss from Wolves, as well as Patricio as our other goalkeeper. We have a matchup this week in the Game Week 36 of Wolves versus Burnley. Now, Wolves did just score 3 versus Everton, but I think both teams defensively are going to be quite solid. And I can easily see a double clean sheet for both teams, and I think it could be quite effective because even the likes of Nick Pope kept Liverpool only to 1 goal. And I think that obviously Wolves' attack is nowhere near as good as Liverpool's, so I think the easy could be a 0-0 draw in this game, which is why I've gone for those assets in Nick Pope and Taylor, as well as the triple Burnley on the bench. We've also gone for players that you obviously would probably see on your bench, or these types of players. So Southampton has a good fixture versus Brighton at home, which is why Bednarek is in there. He's a cheaper, just kind of alternative. I think they could potentially keep a clean sheet there too. Obviously, Brighton looked very tired versus City. They lost 5-0. It could be an easy way for Southampton to pick up points. And we also have Cresswell there as well. He has Watford at home. They just came off a 4-0 win versus Norwich, and obviously they're going to have to be fighting Watford to stay out of relegation, because it could potentially be that the team that loses that game may get sucked back into the relegation battle going into the final couple of game weeks. So I like him as an alternative in there, as a cheaper defender. Like I said, normally I wouldn't play those 3 defenders, in the starting lineup, but I thought it'd be fun to kind of put some new faces in there. And, with the bench boost, obviously everyone's playing. You just put the people on the bench that you're not going to captain. So I think they're better captaincy option than Jesus going into Bournemouth. He could be a very good captaincy option, but I thought that there might be 1 or 2 other ones that you can possibly consider as well. And moving into the midfield, we pretty much have a more or less standard midfield here. We have Bruno Fernandes in there as our one United asset for the bench boost, mainly because I thought that most people will probably have him in their team. His effective ownership is well over 100% in the top 10k players, and he's just going to be a good asset. Is Crystal Palace going to be a tough game? Potentially, but they did just come off a 2-0 defeat versus Aston Villa, so they may be quite vulnerable in that regard. But I think you still need to have at least Bruno Fernandes in there as like a one Man United player in there. I think that there are teams that have better fixtures, and I don't think he's going to be worth a captaincy, because I think his hot streak will come to an end at some point, and it could come versus Crystal Palace, could come versus Southampton. Obviously, as a United fan, I hope they keep winning, but nonetheless, I think that there are better players to captain in this specific game week, but I still think that you need to have one United asset, because I still think they're going to win the game. Moving on to Richarlison, obviously he scored in the 1-1 draw with Southampton. He's going to look to obviously prove, or kind of show, that he could be a bit more explosive. Him and Calvert-Lewin haven't been, as connected as a front two since post lockdown. Before that, they were doing quite well, and I think versus Aston Villa should be quite good to do that. Now Bournemouth, obviously they play in Gameweek 38, who just beat Leicester 4-1, but that was mainly due to a mistake which kind of spiraled into just them losing their heads. And I still think Bournemouth are definitely going to be easy to get at for Everton as well. So it is a type of player that you can bring in, keep him for the remaining 3 game weeks, much like Fernandes if you don't already have him. Then we also have Christian Pulisic, who I've just put the vice captaincy on. He has Norwich at home. Just keep in mind that he is a player that is only going to have that last fixture as a good one. His remaining 2 is Liverpool as well as Wolves on the final game day, and those could be a lot tougher and a lot more, strenuous. He's been playing a lot of minutes, and obviously Liverpool are going to bring the press. It's going to basically tire him out. Liverpool's probably going to have the ball more than Chelsea will, and he might find himself not having much to do in Liverpool, just kind of battering them, because Chelsea's defense have been terrible in the recent game week. So I think he's definitely good for Norwich. I think, pretty much any player playing Norwich is going to be quite good, and I think he's definitely worth it for this game week if you can get him in on a free. And obviously if you can, doesn't matter what type of team you have for the bench boost, if he's one of those assets, you're definitely going to be happy with him in that Bournemouth fixture. And then lastly, we have the 2 City midfielders. We have De Bruyne and Sterling. Sterling coming off a hat-trick. I can find it very hard in my mind to think that Pep will bench somebody that just scored a hat-trick. That being said, it's Pep Guardiola, and he, as far as I know, he just kind of takes a bunch of pictures, puts them in a bag, shuffles them around. Whichever first 11 that he pulls out, apart from Ederson, who's already on the team sheet, those are the players playing. That's how I kind of figure he picks the team, really, because some of his decisions kind of don't make much sense. Sometimes he'll bench a player 3 games in a row, even though they've scored or contributed. It just doesn't really make too much sense. But I think De Bruyne is going to be a solid pick as well. I think it should be, no worries there. And I think those are probably the 3 best City assets going into this game week. You can say Foden, but again, Foden is still technically a risk because he is a younger player, even though he was benched in the previous game. But will he start Foden for the FA Cup game that they have on the weekend after Bournemouth? Not too sure there. But I do have the captaincy on Sterling because I think he will start. You could easily put it on De Bruyne as well. I just thought I'd put it on Sterling just because I felt that he's probably going to start, and he's a bit more explosive. KDB was playing a little bit more reserved, and I think that Sterling could be very good for the captaincy if he starts in this game week. And lastly, we have the 2 remaining forwards. Danny Ings was also in my free hit team as well. He has pretty good fixtures to end the season. He has Brighton at home, then followed by Bournemouth away, and then he has Sheffield United at home to end the season, all of which he could definitely score against. He's been that good this season, and obviously his previous injuries have seemed to kind of dissipated, and now he's kind of the anchor and the mainstay in the team. He's getting 90 minutes every game, more or less. And yeah, I think he's just a great asset. He's a potential captaincy option as well. And I think that at 7.3 or 4 million, somewhere around that bracket, he's very inexpensive for his, the numbers that he's putting out. The only thing that I would say is that he has, he's lower on the assist total for like some strikers, but he's obviously there to score goals. And when he does score, he's just a 9-pointer waiting to happen, getting maximum bonus. Because when he gets that one chance, he typically puts it away. And then lastly, we have Olivier Giroud. I think Lampard realizes the limitations of Tammy Abraham. Giroud is there to be a facilitator. You want the likes of Willian and Pulisic to be the mainstays in your team, at least for their current setup for the remainder of the season. And I think that Giroud is the best facilitator up front, and I think he's just the one that's going to kind of bring everyone together. He's got that experience in there, and I think you have to play him versus Norwich because Norwich is their only real gimme left. Like we mentioned, Liverpool and Wolves are going to be very, very difficult, and I think Giroud is going to be, you can put him in there for 60 minutes, you get ahead 3-0, and then you can take him off for Tammy Abraham to get some minutes, but you should be getting well ahead of Norwich, out of sight, and then you can start resting players because you have 2 tough fixtures left over. And to end the season, if you include the FA Cup game, they have to play Liverpool, then Man United in the semi-final, then Wolves, and then a potential final if they were to beat Manchester United against either City or Arsenal in the FA Cup final. So it is going to be a tough road ahead of him. I think you just need to just kind of get Norwich, well out of harm's way and just use Giroud for that because he is a facilitator. He is that experienced player. He kind of knows how to kind of control the game, and that's kind of what we've seen on the international level as well. He gets a lot of stick typically. Oh, he doesn't score that many goals. Oh, he doesn't do this. Oh, he doesn't do that. But you want the likes of Pulisic and Willian to kind of play freely, and that's where Giroud comes in. He is definitely kind of the assister, kind of the backbone, kind of the person says, don't worry, I'll handle things up here. You guys just do what you need to do. I'll make sure you get the ball. I'll make sure to kind of control things up here. And I think that, you know, Giroud could be a very good differential, especially if you have him or have the, you know, cash to bring him in as well. I know the forward slots are a bit tricky because some people have cheaper forwards like Greenwood or a more expensive forward like Vardy or Jesus. And Giroud's kind of that halfway house in between, and it could be a little bit on the difficult side. And I think he's definitely an alternative to the likes of Pulisic, who I think could see reduced minutes going on because they may want him for the FA Cup game or need him, like I said, for the Liverpool and the Wolves game to secure top 4. Pulisic is definitely going to see minutes, but I think Giroud will definitely start in the next game if Lampard obviously knows that Giroud is the better striker. Tammy just needs a bit more experience, and I think that's where Giroud obviously, you know, kind of fulfills that role. But yeah, that's the kind of the idea behind the bench boost team. You're just looking at players that can kind of fill out the team entirely, ones that are going to start, ones that have a halfway decent matchup or so. And yeah, that's the team that I've kind of drafted up, kind of going with that balance. And I think that it's kind of mainly structured around the midfield and kind of one power forward. Obviously, Ings and Giroud are kind of the cheaper, you know, types of forwards, or ones that are like less than 9 million. I kind of think of the big hitters as like 9 million plus forwards, or like 8.5 to 9 million plus midfielders. Obviously, there's Pulisic, who's kind of an exception to the rule, same with Richarlison. But that's where the majority of your money is going to go. The defense is going to be kind of stretched out, but there are a lot of cheap options like we've shown in this bench boost draft. And that's going to do it for the bench boost draft here. Let me know what you think about the draft that I've done up here. These are obviously an ideal scenario. These are just players that I would say probably would best suit a bench boost going into Game Week 36 if you could do a magical wildcard into a bench boost in this coming game week. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new, and make sure to turn those notification bells on so you can get the content when it is readily available. Also, leave a comment down below as to which players you're kind of looking at or what chips you may have remaining. I'm always open to suggestions as well, because I think that potential free hits in 37 and 38 could be okay, but they are a lot riskier. Triple captaincy is definitely something up for grabs. I've used mine on Vardy in Game Week 35, which is yet to finish, but there's obviously triple captains for 36 and 38 that people are looking at as well. Also, make sure to follow us over on Twitter and Twitch. It's PilotFlame226 on both of those platforms, as you can see down below me as well. And that's where we post our latest YouTube videos, as well as when we go live for our Game Week discussions. We're going to be doing one at around 7 p.m. EST after the Manchester United game tomorrow. It's going to be, you know, obviously a couple hours after it finishes, because the game will finish around 5 p.m. EST. But I should be on to stream at around 7 p.m. EST, where we'll check out how my team did, and we'll kind of see what transfers I may be thinking about doing for Game Week 36 plus. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, take care.